Lord is in the cave at this time, practicing swordplay diligently. A red window suddenly pops up in front of him. An important reminder, someone is coming. Lord quickly turned his head to look, and at this moment, Fat Mercenary was leading two girls to explore the dungeon. From time to time, he had to show off his charm. The red-haired woman was a bit scared. Fat Mercenary proudly said, "As long as you follow me, you'll definitely be safe." The red-haired woman pretended to be afraid of getting hurt. Fat Mercenary kept saying that everything was fine, while showing off the expensive healing potions he brought along. The yellow-haired woman stood by coldly observing. The two of them put on a pretentious performance. She started to have other calculations in her mind. She felt that this man was indeed very wealthy. The yellow-haired woman greeted with a smile on her face, while she tightly held a dagger behind her back. She thought to herself, "Don't blame me for being heartless later. I'll kill all of you. Then everything will be mine, including those potions. These three people look peaceful on the surface." Behind the scenes, everyone has their own selfish plans. The yellow-haired woman has also started her performance. The red-haired woman looked disdainful. She approached the Fat Mercenary and taunted the yellow-haired woman, saying, "Aren't you an adventurer? Go ahead and scout ahead." The yellow-haired woman smiled on the outside but cursed in her heart. "Shameless bitch." Fat Mercenary looked at the two girls. He smiled and advised them not to quarrel while feeling ecstatic in his heart. He thought to himself that they must be fighting because of him. In fact, this dungeon is super simple. Just a bunch of trash skeleton monsters. With the added bonus of my shiny golden hammer, I can easily lead them out. Fat Mercenary happily thinks to himself. After finishing the dungeon, he is also looking forward to sleeping with two girls. He even drools in anticipation. Suddenly, they realize something was wrong. This dungeon should be filled with skeleton monsters everywhere. They have all been here for quite a while. How come there isn't a single skeleton monster? Fat Mercenary pretended to be calm and said, "I just arrived at the entrance." He felt quite anxious and asked, "What's going on? Has someone cleared the dungeon?" The red-haired woman's face was full of shock as she pointed ahead. The other two followed her pointing direction to look. A pile of skeletal frames stacked up. The three individuals looked ahead. The scene of devastation was unbelievable. He said, "No way, no way. Someone really beat us to it." The three individuals felt disappointed because someone else had acted first. He said, "There's no way." She was thinking to herself, "I'll just kill them now." Just as the yellow-haired woman was about to make her move, a lord in full armor appeared. The Fat Mercenary, trying to maintain composure, asked, "Who goes there? Identify yourself." Lord approached slowly. His imposing demeanor caused the Fat Mercenary to speak more slowly. He asked, "Did you deal with all these monsters?" Lord remained silent. Yellow-haired woman Alice silently calculated on the side. Lord said, "This is my territory. Please leave quickly." Fat Mercenary laughed and turned his head. He wants to leave with two girls. However, how can Alice let this opportunity slip by? She shouted, "This is the dungeon that Lord Chitu is interested in. Where did you come from, you jerk? So rude. I advise you to hand over all valuable items. Otherwise, the Night Lord will not let you off." She looked at Fat Mercenary with an adoring gaze. At this moment, Fat Mercenary also found it difficult to just leave like that. He cursed, "What the heck? How dare you act so recklessly in front of me? Damn it! Take off your helmet for me." Will Lord grant Fat Mercenary's wish? If you want to know the answer, just hit the like button. Continuation from the previous episode. Lord intended to send them away, but he didn't expect them to be so rude. He said, "Well, I hope you don't regret this." Continuing, he then prepared to take off his helmet. Alice secretly rejoiced in the dark. She was waiting to reap the benefits of others' efforts. and when he took off the helmet, at that moment, the three people were dumbfounded. Is this the Overlord of Bones incarnate? He is unexpectedly powerful. At this moment, they saw a skeleton. They started whispering to each other. Lord issued an order of banishment. The red-haired woman wanted to escape because she was frightened. The fat mercenary laughed heartily, oblivious to the situation. He prepared to show off his skills. Just a mere rookie skeleton, he said mockingly. He simply picked up a suit of armor. Lord sighed. What a troublemaker. I have kindly warned you before. If you insist on heading down a path of self-destruction, don't blame me for being ruthless. That mercenary swung his hammer and charged out. He said, What's there to be arrogant about for a little skeleton monster? That mercenary wants to show off his charm in front of the girl. His biggest trump card in hand is aimed at Skeleton Enchanted. That shining golden hammer. Lord is watching them. They don't listen to advice. Then he wielded his sword to fight. Lord is as fast as lightning. That mercenary lost his hands before he could even react. That mercenary was obviously stunned. For everything in front of him. That mercenary still couldn't believe it. Lord said it would be better to leave obediently. Alice showed no fear at this moment. Instead, she looked joyful. The fat mercenary knelt down on the ground. Pain was tormenting him. The red-haired woman saw such a tragic scene. Her fear was boundless. She turned around and quickly ran out. Alice didn't even think. Let the red-haired woman go alive. She threw the dagger, ending the life of the red-haired woman. Lord was scared by her actions. He asked, What are you doing? Did you attack the wrong target? After saying that, he held his sword in a defensive stance. His expression was serious, ready for battle at any moment. Alice's next move caught him off guard. Alice actually knelt down and begged for mercy. Then she introduced herself. She is a member of the Thieves Guild. Their work ranges from assassinations to collecting information. She can do anything from stealing to espionage. The skeleton soldier paused for a moment. He said, So you're doing all this on purpose? Alice replied, After all, everyone has to die. Why bother continuing to trouble yourself? Lord expressed some helplessness. I didn't intend to kill the red-haired woman. You killed her. Why don't you continue to attack me? Alice flattered. My little trick. I can't escape Lord's scrutiny. I still have some self-awareness. Besides, we are not companions. Lord joked, saying, Indeed, you deserve to be in the Thieves Guild. He then turned around, wanting to send Alice away. He said, You better leave now. I don't want to kill you. Alice, however, wanted to cling tightly to his leg. Lord ruthlessly rejected her embrace. But then, he suddenly thought of intelligence. Alice could gather intelligence. He blurted out, Wait a minute. Can Lord get the intelligence he wants? Will Alice's abacus be successful again? Please continue watching. It's time to hit the like button and subscribe button again. Alice, who was stopped, was overjoyed. She asked what intelligence Lord needed. Lord asked without courtesy. The matter of Nailin Gentlemen's Club. Alice pondered and said, Knowing is knowing. But I have a condition. Lord found it funny. He said, You still dare to talk conditions with me. Then he put the sword against Alice's neck. He said, Are you out of your mind? Hurry up, Alice said. This intelligence. Based on Lord's identity. I'm afraid it's impossible to buy. Lord whispered, I won't get any information if I kill her. After weighing the options, he sheathed his sword. He asked about the conditions. Alice said she still wanted to follow Lord. At the same time, a storyline window related to Alice pops up. Successfully started a new task. Lord looks at the familiar page. Remembering the encounter with Ruby. A similar interface popped up as well. And he is still clueless about it. Alice chuckled, interrupting his thoughts. She said she could help him. He grabbed Alice's neck. He lifted her up. You can betray even your own kind. And you are still so eloquent. Alice sneered. Kin? Compared to them, I have more in common with Lord. Lord threw her aside. Alice continued. No one treats her as one of their own. The man violated her body. The woman framed her. She feels very similar to Lord. She then said Nayland Gentlemen's Club. Human trafficking. As long as there is money to be made. Murder. Production of illegal drugs. Engaged in some shady dealings for quick money. However, this organization is powerful and has government officials protecting them. But the leader and headquarters intelligence are not something that people at her level can know. She has a new idea. Since humans can kill monsters, why can't monsters come to kill humans? Alice decided to cooperate with Lord to lure assassination targets into this dungeon and let Lord kill them. In this way, she can improve her position in the guild and also help Lord gather more intelligence. Lord can also gain more experience points in this way, thus becoming stronger. She said, Why not do it? Lord remained silent for a while, then he said, Do you feel guilty for killing your own kind? Alice answered firmly, Of course not. I really detest humans. Lord remained expressionless. He said, Okay, it's a deal. If you haven't hit the like button or subscribed yet, the Lord will appear in front of you now. In front of the Lord. Suddenly a red window pops up. It is an invasion alert. After working together with Alice for a period of time, they have become very tacit. They show no signs of panic. The invaders seem like fish on a cutting board, letting themselves be slaughtered. He swiftly kills a man with his sword. Another mercenary draws his bow, ready to shoot. Suddenly there was a puff sound. Alice stabs him in the abdomen with a knife. The archer falls to the ground and dies. Alice looks very pleased. While another intruder took advantage of her distraction and kicked Alice over. The intruder stepped on Alice. He lifted the sword over his head, ready to thrust down. He suffered a miserable defeat. He then fell to the ground and died. Blood splattered everywhere. There was a sharp sword stuck in his back. Obviously. This time, the skeleton lord killed him. He then looked at Alice and gave a slightly awkward smile. At this moment, a bell rang. A window popped up. In addition to the information about levels and skills, new information appeared, Dungeon Affinity Level. After multiple hunting sessions, Lord's leveling speed in this dungeon has also slowed down significantly. Just as he was considering whether to change dungeon, Alice excitedly waved her hand, calling him over. A substantial pile of loot was gathered on the ground. Alice's smile became even brighter. Lord looked a bit unnatural, hesitating to speak. Alice said, Don't bring up the issue of the same race again. Alice turned away. She was obviously a little angry. I killed. They were all wicked people. Lord advised her to calm down later. He became interested in the books on the ground. He picked up a book called The Ugly Mage. He began to flip through it. This is a book criticizing mages. Lord obviously has no interest. He continued to read on. He started muttering. How much does this author have against mages? Curiously, he looked at the author's name. Kevin Austin? A window popped up. Intelligence increased by 1 level. This unexpected gain made Soldier ecstatic as he frantically searched. He was just searching for other books on the ground. Alice looked at him in confusion. She was very puzzled. After a while, Lord sighed wearily and sat down on the ground. Some books were scattered around him. He had been wandering in the ocean of knowledge. Obviously, he found that there were only 2 books that could enhance intelligence attributes. The common point of these 2 books was that they were written by the same person, Kevin Austin. When Alice saw Lord pondering over these 2 books, she approached him. She sat down beside him and leaned on Lord's shoulder, rubbing her face against it with a look of intoxication. Lord, oblivious to the situation, muttered, "Can you please back off a bit?" Alice noticed that Lord was deeply immersed in his studies and unable to extricate himself. She suggested, "Should we go to the village to find other books?" Lord admired this woman's perceptiveness, but he refused her suggestion verbally. He asked, "Where is the closest dungeon located?" Alice decides based on the level. She recommended 4 dungeons. Lord is considering. Since this dungeon is F grade, let's choose the next one as E grade. He turned to Alice and said, "Let's go to the village together." He discovered that Alice was sleeping with her head on his leg. He was thinking about this woman. Recently, running around between 2 places has also been exhausting. Practice swordsmanship while she is asleep. Lord suddenly felt as if his brain had been struck by lightning. Then there was a loud roar. He felt dizzy and unable to support himself anymore. His eyes slowly closed. At the last moment when he lost consciousness, he saw a familiar pop-up window appear. What was written on the pop-up window? "Lord, can you awaken again? Please continue watching. If you haven't hit the like button or subscribed yet, Lord will appear in front of you." Originally, the pop-up window read, "The dungeon is consuming him." Without time to think, he falls into a deep slumber. After a while, he slowly awakens. An unexpected figure appears before him. "Sex's Lord? How is this possible?" Skeleton Soldier couldn't believe it. He quickly stood up and stepped back repeatedly. However, Sex's Lord had clearly died. Sex's had a smile on his face and felt sorry for disturbing him. He quickly waved his hand and said it was nothing. At this point, he noticed that his armor was gone. Sex's stepped forward, embraced him, and comforted, saying, "It's okay, don't be afraid." It seems like he is having a nightmare instead of a sweet dream. Skeleton Soldier fell into contemplation. So everything before was just a nightmare. Sex's tenderness makes him sink. Let Lord lead him. There is only one thought left in his mind. Just live happily here with Lord. Just as the Skeleton Soldier gets lost in the beautiful dream and unable to extricate himself. His body is walking towards the cave, like a puppet. At this moment, Alice woke up slowly. She immediately looked around. She saw the figure of the Skeleton Soldier. What she didn't know was, the Skeleton Soldier was immersed in the environment, unable to extricate himself. He hypnotized himself. It used to be all nightmares. The Sex's Lord in front never left. Sex's noticed the Skeleton Soldier's anomaly. She asked about his condition. Skeleton shook his head hastily to indicate nothing was wrong. Sex's continued to ask about Nightmare's situation. What kind of person is Alice? Alice has left the dungeon. She continues to search for the Skeleton Soldier's trail. Should she go when she can't find anything around? She decides to go back to the dungeon to take another look. At this moment, noisy footsteps could be heard. A well-organized team appears outside the dungeon. The leader boosts morale. They have come to conquer this place. Originally a training ground for beginners. Now it has turned into a dungeon like the Spider Cave. It's a place where people disappear without a trace. Alice, who was peeking on the side, discovered that this team is the Blue Lion Knight. Her face changed drastically as she muttered to herself, "This is bad." And the Skeleton Soldier was still immersed in the illusion, telling Lord the story of Alice. She said that the child actually followed you in that situation. Do you want to watch and do nothing to save them? Just like how you watched me die. Words of Sex's Lord. If you have not hit the like button or subscribed yet, Skeleton Soldier will appear in front of you now. Just as Skeleton Soldier silently swears. When it's time to protect Sex's Lord. The frantic and distressed Alice called out to him by his side. Alice slowly walked over to the Skeleton Soldier's side. But at this moment, the Skeleton Soldier did not react at all. It sat there motionless, with eerie blue light flickering in its eye sockets. At this moment, He suddenly stood up. He was still muttering something in his mouth. Alice saw this skeleton soldier. She felt somewhat strange. She observed and moved back. Only see the skeleton soldier. He tightened the sword in his hand. He swept his sword towards Alice, causing her to tactically lean back, narrowly avoiding the attack. She continued to retreat while talking to the skeleton soldier. The skeleton soldier still did not respond. Currently, she is in a dilemma. How bad is Alice's situation? Just as bad as it gets. An arrow suddenly shot over. It shot right in front of Alice's feet. The people from the knights have already come in, and they found the two of them. At the same time, they are also calling for their companions. At this critical moment, skeleton soldier is still confused. Alice has not taken any action yet. A rain of arrows is coming, leaving her with no way to defend herself. At this critical moment of life and death, Alice didn't escape alone. She still had not given up hope, calling for the skeleton soldier. At this moment in the illusion, Sexus asked calmly, "What is skeleton soldier doing?" Skeleton soldier is gripping the sharp sword tightly. He indicates that there are intruders. This time we must protect Lord. Sexus sneered disdainfully. "Is that so?" she asked. "Then why didn't you try to save them?" Just then, Ruby appeared suddenly. In front of skeleton soldier, he trembled all over, unable to believe his eyes. He was so scared that he fell to the ground directly. While Ruby, at this point, still persisted in continuing to ask. Skeleton soldier stammered as he explained. Sexus Lord placed his hand on skeleton soldier's shoulder. She murmured in his ear. She said, "You know best. It's all because you are too weak." Skeleton soldier has no power to argue. Ruby and Sexus. They are extremely disappointed, and with a fierce expression. All are stabbing his heart. Those full of hatred, and the despairing words, made him sink into a whirlpool of self-blame. He couldn't extricate himself. At this moment, a scout is reporting the situation to the superior. This person has an extraordinary bearing. He is the Blue Lion Knight, the group leader Ryan Rhodes. Can the skeleton soldier break free from the illusion and escape the whirlpool? Can Alice once again lead the skeleton soldier to break through the encirclement? If you haven't hit the like button or subscribed yet, the skeleton soldier will appear in front of you. The skeleton soldier is caught in a vortex of illusion. He couldn't resist. The more he struggled, the deeper he sank. And at this moment, the scout's crossbows. Alice is being targeted. She can only dodge and look for an opportunity from behind. The skeleton soldier has lost its mind. It's not functioning effectively. Alice is planning to take him away before deciding what to do next. The soldiers draw their swords and prepare for close combat. They rush towards Alice. She threw a bomb. She threw it into the crowd. The soldiers hurriedly dodged. Alice took the opportunity to escape with the skeleton soldier when the bomb exploded. The skeleton soldier is twisting uneasily. Alice gritted her teeth and persisted. She planned to lure them into the depths of the dungeon and then use a smoke bomb. Suddenly, an arrow came whistling through the air and struck her arm. A bearded soldier. He blocked their escape route. He said, "Surrender now. A serial killer. I'm going to arrest you." Before he could finish talking, skeleton soldier seemed to react to something, slowly moving forward. The bearded soldier mistook Alice for a necromancer and cast necromancer spells. He began commanding the other soldiers to deal with the skeleton lord first. Alice saw the situation. They began to target skeleton lord, while Alice shouted not to, and stood in front of the lord to shield him. And at this critical moment, the skeleton soldier in the illusion is on the verge of consciousness blur. He mistakenly thinks he is already dead. This is the world after death. At the same time, he also felt that he had seen Sexus and Ruby before he died. It can be considered resulting a long-standing issue. Just then, Alice's voice sounded in his ears. He suddenly woke up, realizing that this was a hallucination. He squeezed his hands tightly to cheer himself up. He wants to become stronger. At this moment, blood splattered on the face of the skeleton soldier. Alice appeared in his field of vision, covered in blood. She saw Skeleton Lord waking up. There was a hint of a smile on her lips. A weight lifted off her heart. She fell into the arms of the Skeleton Lord with a thud. He asked incredulously, "Why?" Alice mustered up her courage and said, "I want to say thank you. Let's talk outside." At this moment, Soldier with a beard suddenly shouted, "Catch him alive!" At this moment, he noticed something unusual. The skeleton soldier, originally like a puppet, regained its will. He said, "It's no problem as long as you surrender, then everything will be fine." Alice cunningly said, "You didn't smell it?" What exactly is it that terrified everyone so much? He broke out in a cold sweat. If you haven't hit the like button or subscribed yet, Skeleton Soldier will appear in front of you. This is a work by Necromancer. Summon Skeletons. Fantasy comic titled, Overlord of Bones. Skeleton Soldier descends. From then on, there was a cheat code. His attributes will not disappear with each reincarnation. Who gave him such a magical power? Come and take a look with me quickly. You can collect video albums. Start watching from the first episode. The main feature begins. Alice's words hit like thunder. He realized what was wrong, only to see a fuse burning rapidly. Soldier with a beard looked in shock at the end of the fuse. It was a pile of toxic explosives, and the fuse was almost burned out. It is like a death knell, indicating that everyone's life has entered the countdown. Alice sneered. This closure commemorative gift. Are you all satisfied? With a loud bang, the group of soldiers was blown to pieces. The fire and poison gas from the explosion spread. Even those lucky enough to survive the blast couldn't escape the spreading poison gas. Alice supported her body that was shot with an arrow and joked with Lord, saying, "It used to be me carrying you on my back. Now it's your turn to carry me." Skeleton Soldier looked at Alice without saying anything. Soldier with a beard saw the two of them trying to escape. He immediately shouted to intercept them. The two soldiers also reacted quickly. They raised their swords and charged over. Skeleton Soldier raised his hand, and the blade fell. He did not back down. He took care of these two roadblocks. Then he carried Alice on his back and ran outside. He asked her excitedly why she didn't escape on her own. Alice weakly said, "But I am your companion." Skeleton Soldier fell into self-blame.